That teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will increase. Any leadership that teaches you to depend upon another race is a leadership that will increase. They gave leadership to our foreparents, and that leadership made them slaves. But we have decided to find a leadership of our own to make ourselves free men. Our great scholars have advanced through the colleges and universities, have thrown away the blessed record. Babylon did it. Assyria did it. France under Napoleon did it. Germany under Prince von Bismarck did it. England under America under George Washington did it. Africa with 400 million black people can do it.
Welcome to one and all, and make them. And I'm thankful and thank you very much, Asante Sana, for being in our presence. So we do say, with peace, shalom, blessed love, my Lord, blessed love to the Empress. And of course, in all oneness and joy, Baruch Getaye and Baruch Itage. Of course, you know, we are bringing forth the lecture series, and we are beginning here with Haile Selassie and Freemasonry, as this subject is, answering the question that has been asked many times: is Haile Selassie a Mason, or is Haile Selassie a Freemason? So we are going into it and intend to stay on the specific point. And plus, let me make it clear that we are not trying to convince anyone. We are not even trying to prove to anyone that Haile Selassie is God. And I'm sure you would comprehend by now the term God is a term that is very skeptical. It is not the most choice of words that we would definitely go for. But the case is, even to say he's divine or whatever it is, this is not the mission here. But obviously, we will obviously have to express some of that to you to give a good comprehension of our outlook and even the question itself. Now, personally, I subscribe to the concept of an intelligent nucleus. This is an intelligent point of central energy that has formulated all that we know and all that we don't know. So in other words, all that exists, all that you see and all that you don't see, that which you don't even know exists that can be seen, there is a specific nucleus again, a central intelligent force, energy, point in time and space and in existence itself that formulated all things that we see and don't see. And it is only obvious, and nature itself shows us this. The whole concept of rotation and revolving and taking the energy of life and light and the gravitational pull. So the moon goes around the earth, and the earth still goes around the sun, while the sun is still going around the galaxy, and there's still another central point and a central point and a central point, and out of these central points emits life and sustenance. And it is the divine order of creation and the evolution of things from one state to another state. There is a central point, an intelligent source, again, that has formulated and up to this time have kept all things in motion. So now some people argue about creation and evolution and these different things, but what I would say here is that there's a specific being that we call the human being. Listen to me good. And the human being is considered to be the intelligent animal. Not only the intelligent animal, but the intelligent, full stop. Now, when you observe animals, most animals are kept in the order of the creation in which they were created with, unless the animal is domesticated, unless the animal is enslaved, unless the animal is in a prison somewhere, some zoo or cage or whatever the case is, the animal is in order, meaning that it eats what it is supposed to eat. It goes to sleep when it's supposed to go to sleep, and it wakes up when it is supposed to wake up. Birds do not sleep in. Birds don't say, well, I'm not working today, so I'm going to take an extra 5. I don't know one bird, not even the night birds, that are sleeping when the sun is coming up. The bird has to be sick to dying to be in the nest snoring when the sun is coming up. As I said, not even the nocturnal feathered fowls, like they have to go to sleep like some vampire before the sun come up. So this is obviously something naturally within the bird. All the birds, I think there are more birds than, come on, maybe insects alone outnumber the birds. So I'm just showing you that if not even one bird goes astray out of all these different types of birds, and you can hardly find one human being that is specifically, directly, 100% in the way that the Creator intended man and woman to live. Which one is the real intelligent animal here? But it's obvious that the original man and woman had a higher level of civilization than what we're kicking about with today. This is for sure. And through the so-called discoveries, through our knowledge, through our own investigation, just through our understanding of the cosmos, we know that we as a people, we had a higher level of civilization as far as mathematics, even a social order, theology. When it comes to theology, and theo and ology just simply means the study of the supreme being. Theology, our theology was always expressed in the allegory. Our theology was always expressed in the esoterics. Our theology was always expressed in the symbolic writings. We spoke of a supreme being. We spoke of a source that activated all that has been activated. Yes, we spoke of that nucleus that I mentioned at the beginning. People call it God today, and the Lord, and many different things, and these names and genders and so many things that are added now, and chosen and homeland, and so many things has lost the essence of the true understanding of the ancients. Because the mystery of the Ptah, and the mystery of the Osiris, and the mystery of the Sokar, down to the mystery of Anansi. And some people will say, well, listen, man, God, and I mean, these were just symbols. Yes, I would agree. Listen to me. Listen to me. Yes, in the ancient time, we used the symbols of not just humans, but we used the symbols of animals as well. And humans combined with animals to show, again, as I said, we were dealing with an allegory. We were dealing with an esoteric expression. Anansi is a spider. Anansi represents more than just a spider. And when you understand the story of Anansi, which one day we will definitely build it up for you, Anansi represents even the electromagnetic field of the earth and the sacred grid. Anansi, who owns all stories. But personally though, as most of you would know, that when it comes to these different mysteries, from the mystery of Ptah down to Anansi, even the story of Brahma and Shango, even the ancient Nomo of the Dogon people, Unkulunkulu. Even when we go into the Greek mythology of Atlas and Jason and the Golden Fleece and Jesus and Zeus and these different characters, obviously some were borrowed from some were even stolen and plagiarized from some a little more corrupted than the others, and some obviously in their pure form. But when I investigate all that I just mentioned and more, I still come to the conclusion of Emperor Haile Selassie I, fulfilling the prophecy of everything that I just mentioned. This is me personally. I didn't say that for you to agree. We just said that to tell you what we think in our heart and also in our mind. And when we observe the heavens, we see the same story within the mythos of the ages, the mythos of the ancient kingdoms, from Persia to Angkor Wat, Angkor Thom, into the ancient Buddhist temples, the Kailasha temples, the pyramids, of course, of Giza, and of course anywhere else that you find these megalithic structures and ancient temples aligning with the stars. There is also a theology usually found with it. It's all the same. There's a common thread running through the stories, and it can also be seen in the heavens. And of course, the heavens now was written by the same nucleus. The heavens was authored by that same central force that I am speaking of, that formulated everything, the great architect that brought everything into motion. All that is seen and all that is unseen. Now, I just thought it was necessary for us to bring that to the forefront, to first of all give acknowledgement to that central source, and again to express to the audience the light in which we see Haile Selassie I. And as I said, there are so many different mythos that we can draw for, and other things in geology and geometry, and other esoteric forms of expressions as well, to prove our point day and night, year in, year out, of the divinity of Haile Selassie I. Now, as far as the subject area, if we're going to be asking of Haile Selassie's connection to Masonry, and if we're going to be as blunt as to say, is Haile Selassie a Freemason, then we need to comprehend first of all, what is Masonry? What is it to be a Freemason? Do we know? Because without disrespecting, of course, anyone, a lot of us, we just join the conversation because of hearsay, And our information is a lot of hearsay information too. You know, do we understand the foundation of what is called masonry and where it really comes from? So what I decided to do, I have a few articles I just wanted to touch upon, beginning with this article coming directly from www.freemason.com. And the Grand Lodge of Ohio, free and accepted Masons. So I think this would be a quite appropriate source. Don't you think? Of course. What is Freemasonry? Freemasonry is the oldest. Mark that word. Freemasonry is the oldest, largest, and most widely recognized fraternal organization in the world. Founded in London, England in 1717. This is AD. Its current worldwide membership totals, well, I don't want to go into that. Well, it says 3.6 million members. But anyway, I don't want to go into that. And it goes on, because I already got the point that I was looking for. Freemasonry, the oldest. How old? The oldest what, by the way? Fraternal organization. Okay. In the world. Okay. Founded in London, England. 1717. All right. Let us see what is said of the Knights of the Garter, the Order of the Knights of the Garter. It says here, the Order of the Garter, formerly the most noble order of the Garter, is an order of chivalry founded by Edward III in 1348. And regarded as the most prestigious British order of chivalry in England and the United Kingdom. It is dedicated to the image and arms of Saint George, which is Kidus, England's patron or patron saint. And the same thing could be said of Christian Ethiopia. Interesting. But what it's saying here is that the order of the Garter, the most noble order of the Garter, was founded in 1348. And let me just clarify, it was founded according to this by Edward III. When you go through history, you would come across some individuals saying that it was founded by Edward the Black Prince, Prince Edward the Black Prince, which was the Prince of Wales. Now, Edward the Black Prince is actually the son, the elder son of Edward III, which was the king at the time of England. But the reality is that the King of England or the Queen would obviously be the sovereign over the Knights of the Garter. But the Prince of Wales is actually the head of the Knights of the Garter. And that book, The Antichrist and the Cup of Tea, also expressed that for sure. This is why he is referred to as the Knight Companion and has a specific place in the ceremony, which we will speak of in a moment. But what I'm saying here now, this was founded in 1348 in England. And when we're reading from the Freemason website, freemason.com, they're saying that Freemasonry was founded in England too in 1717. And listen to this now. They say it is the oldest. But isn't the Knights of God, the Knights of the Garter, a Freemasonic organization as well? Isn't it? Aren't they Masons? That's what we call them. They look at their symbols. You know, they carry that red cross, the same red cross as the Knights of the Temples of Solomon, the Knights Templars. And then now the Knights Templars now, let's get into their history, because the Knights Templars, which some consider the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon, the order was founded in 1119 and was active until about 1312. So the Knights Templars now, that has gone even further back. That's 1119. The Knights Templars, you know. The Knights Templars are the ones that are considered to be in the originators as such of Freemasonry, in the sense of bringing it to life in reverence of the original Grand Masters, King Solomon and the Hirams and other workers, I assume, on the temple. So when we consider this now in the full spect, from what we are to believe, this whole concept came from King Solomon and the builders of the temple for the Lord. For what we call Solomon's temple is really the temple for the Lord, the temple for the Ark of the Covenant, the place where the Ark of the Covenant shall dwell. So this temple was so mystic. This temple was so mysterious even in the building of it, with the different stones and cedar wood from Lebanon, and as I said, Hiram Abeher now, and of course his architectural genius to even put together such a structure in such a time, such a beautiful, temple, the house of the Lord, really, and the different elements that were used, the gold and the other precious stones to create this magnificent place of rest for the Ark of the Covenant, Solomon and the temple that he built. Yeah. And the story says that even in the building of this temple now, Hiram Abeher was slugged out. But before we get to all of that, the Knights of the Temple of Solomon, again, they take that story and accept it as their foundation and their beginning, and they have their history, which we're not really basking into right now, but they are from 1119. Again, it says here, the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and the Temple of Solomon, also known as the Order of the Solomon's Knights, the Knights Templars. They were a Catholic military order recognized in 1139 by Papal Bull of the Holy See. The order was founded in 1119 and was active until 1312. And then again, you have the Order of the Garter. These are outstanding orders, my brothers and sisters, when it comes to the world of what is called Masonry. The Order of the Garter, the most noble order of the Garter, is an order of chivalry, again founded by Edward III, and this is 1348, just several decades after, or a few decades after, the Knights of the Templars apparently disappeared and went underground. But yet still we see the Order of the Garter having the same red shield the same Red Cross, which is really the British flag. If you take out the blue triangles, you're left with that Red Cross. But then again, from the Freemason website, they're telling you that Freemasonry began in 1717. And it's the oldest. It is the oldest fraternal order. Listen to the words good. It is the oldest fraternal organization. Dealing with fraternity, organization. The Order of the Garter and the Knights of the Templars are orders of chivalry. Listen good. They're orders of chivalry. Catholic military order. Yeah. This is a different thing altogether. Now, this is why you would hear me say from time to time, sometimes we just talk. That's why when people talk, sometimes I just listen, But it is obvious. This is why those that are within the craft, some of them that have to know, will tell you, brother, there's a difference between a Mason and a Freemason. There's a difference between Masonry and Freemasonry. Obviously, there is similarity within them. I personally don't take them out of the same, from under the umbrella that they are under. But when you're dealing with history and you're dealing with academical conversations, intelligent conversation, and you want to drop the academics properly, you got to know the difference for understanding. So when you ask a very serious question like if Haile Selassie is a Freemason, and even if Haile Selassie is a Mason, you got to be clear of who you're speaking about and what is the subject that you're speaking to. So now, in this whole mistake, Solomon's temple again, this great temple of Solomon that was built for the Ark of the Covenant. And before we go there, let us just read something here on Hiram Abeher quickly. And it says, Hiram Abeher, and I'm taking this one straight off of Wikipedia. It's not no great scholarly research we're into here. We're just giving you the basic facts that everybody knows. Hiram Abeher, the widow's son, is a central character, listen to this, of an allegory presented to all candidates during the third degree in Masonry. Hiram is presented as the chief architect of King Solomon's temple, who is murdered in the temple he designed by 3 ruffians as they unsuccessfully attempt to force him to divulge the master mason's secret password. The themes of the allegory are the importance of fidelity and the certainty of death. So basically, Grand Lodge and Masonic Lodge these Freemasonic bodies as well, they all pay some homage back to this Hiram Abeher and also to Solomon. In some of these lodges and temples, they utilize not only Bible but Quran. As you could obviously see, they utilize certain aspects of agency, the Fez, Islamic and Moorish traditions, And they also obviously highlight the Kemetic aspect of it. So without a doubt, from your mention Kemet for sure, you've gone beyond Solomon. So this is what I'm saying here now. Some people would argue if Solomon exists or not. Well, at the moment, as this just said, the Hiram Abiff story is an allegory presented to the third degree. And I'm showing you the allegory is that 3 of the workers wanted the secret. And they couldn't get it from Brother Hiram, so they took the tools that they were working with and they slugged him out, and they really leveled him with the level and the mallet and whatever else it was. And what happened? According to some stories, he was buried 3 times. 3 times. Interesting. They say the same thing about Marcus Garvey. He was buried in a shallow grave. And not Marcus Garvey, I'm speaking of Hiram Abiff. And the acacia tree, the cassia, the acacia, which we call here in Antigua the cassie tree. It sprung out, which was symbolic of resurrection. And we have a specific type of cassie tree, the Alabamba, that is found in Greencastle Hill. And it is said that Hiram Abiff symbolically was resurrected with the grip of the lion paw. All right. So I'm saying that most people, when they speak of Masonry and Freemasonry, it's usually the Illuminati and Jay-Z and these fellas, man, the Bilderbergs and the Council of Foreign Relations and the one eye. Don't you see Beyonce did the one eye symbol and watch Larry King and the handshakes and the aprons and the black and white checkered floor. You need to watch it, man. Prince Harry and Meghan, they were married on the checkered floor. What are you talking about? How long has checkered floor been in there? I mean, you know that's their game. I mean, we as if we look at the dollar bill and the eye and the period, we know that's their game. There's something deeper than that taking place. I mean, come on, man. When you fold the $20 bill, you know, man, you see the buildings crumbling from the 9/11 attack. When you fold the $20 bill in the form of an airplane, what a thing. Talk about subliminal messages. Talk about some secret science. Obviously, the whole Masonic agenda, the Freemasonic ideology is obviously involved in all of these aspects of the system that has been created around us. Everything. Man, there is nothing that really escapes this. Down to the air conditioning in your car. Down to your car. I mean, everything that has a symbol, you just gotta wonder. Some of us that like to talk about symbols, just the cap you wear, the cap that has been designed, what you call the baseball cap that has been evolved. I don't want to disrespect no one, you know. I'm not saying anything wrong with you wearing a cap if that's your choice. But if I was you, I would be very careful about talking about Masonic signs and symbols and this and that, and don't look into what we wear. The cap itself, that wasn't designed from no anciency. Listen to me good. The necktie is the hangman's noose. Obviously, it's very symbolic of a chain around your neck. And they're pulling you to wherever they need you to fulfill your work. I'm going to work, you know, tie my tie. It is masonry. Man, you have on a Nike shoe, the Nike symbol, The goddess of speed, the Roman goddess of speed? I mean, come on. That's why Nike and Mercury and some of these fellas and Batman and Robin, you see them with the Robin specifically, with the wings on their shoes at times, and the wings on their helmets. You know, so Nike is fast. You know, a sports shoe, many different varieties. And British Nike, BK, almost anything that's around you, even the stuff that you're drinking and eating, anything with a symbol, you just got to be careful sometimes. Since you're into symbols, that's what I'm saying. I'm not telling you to go, hey, why aren't these symbols? You know, I don't. But since you are into symbols so much, and look at this symbol and look at that symbol, look at that handshake. Which handshake? My brother, a handshake in general. The handshake concept alone is Masonic. So it doesn't have to be this type and that type and the other type. Everything a person do with their hands, people just flip out. I am telling you. But what I'm showing you, my brothers and sisters, is that it's deeper than all of that. That's almost another level of distraction. That's just the fluff of it. When you go to the depths of the science now, if I was you, I would look for the origin of this all. I know our brothers and sisters like to say we were the first Masons. Well, again, the term Mason, if you are to investigate Mason, you would obviously more than likely come across the craft of masonry, which is not now no secret society I'm speaking of. I mean the craft of bricklaying. Please listen to me, good my family. I hope you're with me. The art of bricklaying is what we all know as masonry. You know? So building a wall, building a house, building a temple, building in general, masonry. So this is why the Hiram Abeher as an architect and the Solomon himself as a great builder too, the whole science is that in their building, as when you read of in the Bible the different things, the porch and the pillars, the Doric and the Jachin, the Boaz and the Jachin, I should say, which is the Doric and the Corinth. These pillars in the Solomonic building of that temple for the Lord, they're very important. So within the Masonic bricklaying science of building is hidden this secret science of quote unquote God, is hidden this secret science of nature. Within Solomon's temple, if you were to see it in its real essence before it was supposedly destroyed, you would be able to geologically unravel the mysteries. If you pick up the code, you would see the geometry of it would reveal prophecies of things to come. You know, if it is what we are supposed to understand it to be, its whole makeup was supposed to be in a line with the movements of the heavens. Why? Because the structures that were way before that. I'm talking about the Great Pyramid of Giza for sure. And even structures in the Western world, the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. They were well built and designed to fulfill all that I just said. Well, in alignment with the movements of the heavens and the earth. Remember the pyramid, you know, the vertical height of the Pyramid of Giza multiplied by 10 to the 9th power is the exact distance from the earth to the sun. This is the Pyramid of Giza, thousands of years before King Solomon. Remember the length of the base side, which is 9,131 inches divided by the sacred cubit, which is 25, gives you 365.24 days. Pyramid of Giza I'm speaking of. And this is the solar year, not 365, you know, 365.24. perfection in this monument of such size. I'm sure the Solomon Temple in its reality, you could fit maybe at least 500 of them, or maybe more. I'm sure more. Maybe 5,000 Solomon temples could have fit inside of the construct of the Great Pyramid, I'm sure. And I'm sure that Solomon's temple did not have such precision in its makeup when compared to that of the Pyramid of Giza. We're talking about the length of the king's chamber. Multiplied by half the length of the antechamber gives you the same 365.24. Even a circle with the length of the antechamber for its diameter, which is 116.25 inches. This circle now has a total circumference of 365.24. And that can be seen, and pi can be seen in the very same pyramid over and over again. When you add the length and the height of the king's chamber and divide this value by the width, you get the value of pi, which is 3.141 and onwards, you understand. And epsilon can be seen, which is 2.718 and phi 1.6, all of this, inside of the Great Pyramid of Giza. And it's not the Great Pyramid of Giza alone, but of course we understand the science of it, that we must highlight it. But again, as I said, when you go to places like Angkor Wat, Angkor Thom, and then when we look into even the buildings of the pyramids of the sun and the moon, when we look at the Dogons, and even the performance that they give a specific performance, a specific dance, the 60-year cycle of Sirius, and what was said to be the binary cycle of Sirius. Some say it's 3 now, but the binary cycle, as some of our great scholars have expressed to us, the Dogons emerge and perform a dance that is really the movements of the heavens and the movements of planets and stars being expressed before your very eyes in this very ancient dance. I'm saying we've been doing that for thousands of years. That is a natural connection to the heavens. That is what you would call today secret science. Because just as the Milky Way, which is in the heavens, aligns with the River Nile, and again, that is the work of the nucleus, what you would call God. At the same time now, we the Ebonites of the planet who brought civilization to the planet again, this ancient civilization to the planet, mathematics and theology, in our rituals, we connected to the esoteric secrets and express it, as I said in the series that I did on the mystic vibration shock of the hour, speaking of symbolic writings. We use the esoteric message of not just writing, of song, of dance, of theater, of instruments, storytelling, in an esoteric allegory form. That's why all stories belong to Anansi. And we used this, I repeat, in theater form as well, in singing, in dancing, in lecturing, in the written form. We use music and song, our culture, to express our theology, to express even our history. We would express our history in allegorical form, to express and teach our culture to the upcoming generations. This is how we expressed ourselves in this high science. So when we observe the Dogons now, as I said, and their dance, directly connected to the movement of the Sirius star system, and we look at the Nazca lines that is seen in South America. The Nazca lines expressing the different animal forms, the monkey, the spider. The Nazca lines can only be seen properly from a specific height. You are talking about images and lines running for miles upon miles, creating, as I said, the spider, the monkey, and other formations that you could only see from the heights, from the above. So I'm just showing you here, we've always been connected to the mystics and the esoteric and this secret expression. All of our monuments that we have built, from Stonehenge in Great Britain and the Adams calendar in South Africa and the great Zimbabwean walls of Monomotapa, they are all coded to be decoded, filled with science and hidden messages, down to the stones and the minerals that was designed to create them. There's still a message even within that. That is how deep that this thing goes. So this is why even the 2160, which of course you know is the years of an age, 2160 years per age, is the length of the moon in miles going across. It's miles across, 2160 miles, 2160. This is why Venus, the planet Venus, makes a 5-point star every 8 years. Venus now. So we gone beyond, the building of, anything. We're talking about Venus now in the heavens, makes in its movement, draws a specific formation every 8 years. It completes it, and the formation is a 5-point star. So when people jump up and say, oh, Bobo Shanti Masonic too now, Oh yeah man, Bobo Shanti carried the black 5-point star. Well, you can't argue with Bobo Shanti. You're going to argue with Venus. Ask Venus why every 8 years she makes a 5-point star. And why does she choose 8, which we highlighted in the documentary Mystically 7, that the number 8 is symbolic to the R. The Bobo Shanti carry the R too. We must be Masonic. A lot of things about us, we like to put our hands on our hearts. I see the Masons do that too, but they use the quote-unquote right hand. The Bobo Shanti use the vertical hand. We gotta be careful with this. We may be Masonic too. Yeah. So that's why when people come with the 5-point star argument, boy, that's Baphomet. I mean, which book did you read to get that in? Oh, you saw it on some video on YouTube. I'm sure that's the case. What studies have you really done to come to that conclusion? You may be correct. That may be the star that Baphomet decides to use and turn it upside down. I can't go into all of that. But I know again that Venus, which is very key, the morning star, draws a pattern. And I've studied it properly on different softwares that you could find for yourself and get the what do you call it, the simulation of the movements of the heavens, and you can map it your own self once you give it time, if you're serious about research. So I'm just showing you in different forms, and we can go on and on, of how we applied the mystery system, the mystics, the movement of the heavens, applied it to our life, applied it to our theology, applied it to our conception, applied it to our culture, and then we applied it to our building, the step pyramid of Saqqara, the temples of Kemet, the pyramids in Kush. We applied it to our quote-unquote masonry. We applied it to our architecture, the science of life, the science of harmony, the science of prophecy, and the science of culture. Straight up. And again, this is all before King Solomon. And it's very sad that Solomon's temple was destroyed to the point that, all remains is a wailing wall. And since we've mentioned Solomon now again, to the question at hand, is Emperor Haile Selassie a Mason? And I'm going to double it because basically, is he a Freemason? We can boil everything into one, because the science is what I'm dealing with. Now, in one of our radio programs, and I think, yes, we have it on the YouTube as well, we were speaking of Haile Selassie as it relates to him not having locks and Rastafari having locks. And I want to stress here, as I said at the beginning of this lecture, this is not designed to convince you of the divinity even of Haile Selassie I. Neither am I attempting to prove to you the same divinity. I'm saying that now and continuing to express that in that episode that I was doing entitled Haile Selassie, why Haile Selassie doesn't have locks, and of course Rastafari carries locks, I highlighted a scripture in the Bible, in the book of Isaiah, that speaks of the Lord in the day of his coming, shaving with a razor that was hired from the king of Assyria. And I highlighted again that if we take this on its very simple level, and some people would show you that Haile Selassie I came from a tradition where the youths here would not be cut, and we have that tradition around here, but in that time he was actually locked until a specific time in his younger age. Fair enough. And of course the strongly devoted ones will tell you, well, listen, Haile Selassie has his locks now, and I'm in total agreement with you. But what I'm just saying here is that outside of that part of it, and what that highlights also is the anciency of the locks itself. Because I showed you on Tutankhamun's footstool, you have the three three specific types of human beings that are seen in the burial chamber of Lord Pakal. In the mask of Lord Pakal, these same images can be seen. You see the image of the man with the locks and the beard, and you see the image of the man with the beard and no locks, and you see the image of the Olmec. And I've highlighted to you in the documentary 7 that we see that as Haile Selassie, Prince Emmanuel, Marcus Garvey. Prince Emmanuel, a very key figure, as he is the expression of the priesthood. And this is why when it speaks of Baba Shanti, you hear one speaks of Baba Shanti being the priest. Now, Nyabingi order, within the Nyabingi order, they do have priests. I mean, in every tradition they have their priests, and Baba Shanti have their priests as well. But I am saying that King Emmanuel Charles Edwards is the priest, the Melchizedek figure that bring forward that priesthood order in its expression within the realms of Rastafari. Now, Qedamawi, whether you agree or not, now Qedamawi Haile Selassie I is the fulfillment of that prophecy that says the Lord shall shave with a razor that is hired from beyond the rivers of Assyria, the king of Assyria. And I see that in the depths of Haile Selassie being the individual that brought Ethiopia into its modern state. Now, this is a strategic move. This is the fulfillment of all the ancient prophecies down to the Bible that is being portrayed before the eyes of the world. The camera and the video camera has come on the scene just right in time to photograph and to capture the voice and the movements of Haile Selassie I. Prior to that, we didn't really have too much of this. Right on time. This is very unique. How interesting it is that whether you believe in Solomon or not, Haile Selassie and his family lineage claims a direct connection with this great King Solomon. The same King Solomon of the Bible. The King Solomon that met the Queen Candace, the Empress of Ethiopia, the Queen of Saba, the Queen of Sheba, that went across the Red Sea even into Yemen and these places. And it says that they brought forward a child, Menelik I. And the Ark of the Covenant story comes into play, and all of this went into Ethiopia, according to the Ethiopian legend. So when we consider all of this, whether one believes or not, the lineage of Solomon is a key and accepted figure. Very important figure is King Solomon. And the lineage of King Solomon historically is said to have stopped in Ethiopia. And the lineage mixed with the monarchy stopped with Qedamawi, Haile Selassie I. Interesting. Haile Selassie I, like Menelik II, had no desire to either leave the battlefield or leave Ethiopia during the time of the invasion of Mussolini and Italy. Again, Ethiopia was very strategic in putting itself into the League of Nations in the early 1920s. It was the League of Nations that Haile Selassie was approaching. Haile Selassie did not leave Ethiopia to go to England. Haile Selassie did not leave Ethiopia to spend 3.5 years away. He intended to go to Geneva and come right back. In fact, it was a vote that sent him away. They voted, and yet still, even though the vote was overwhelming, it still took Empress Menen to convince the king that the diplomatic move is the better move. And the emperor went to Geneva and addressed the League of Nations. And we all know the outcome. And World War II came about, and how mystic it is in the connections with the heavens again, that Haile Selassie I returned to his throne on the very same day and date that he left the throne, the 5th of May, 36 from the 5th of May, 41. Exactly 5 years apart to the very day. Interesting. Speaking about esoteric messages and allegory and secret science, that's one for the books. All right. And as I said, and I've said in different occasions, Haile Selassie being a mystic being. When your 8 siblings before you come into the earth and they die at a very young age or even at birth, and then you born being the 9th child, and then after you, to add to this, after you, another one is coming and they die along with your mother. that is very outstanding to me. And although we speak of the birth of Haile Selassie is brought to an end the 7-year drought in Ethiopia, to me the case with his siblings is something for the thought. And I will also say, in all respect to, of course, those siblings, because they have become our ancestors, so we still, give, all honor to the ancestors of ours that have paid the price in whatever form or fashion, So even with the modernizing of Ethiopia, it was always a bit of tug of war from the ancient ones and some priests and even some of the warriors. When it came to Haile Selassie, even bringing in the airplanes and tanks, which were definitely needed for battle, and giving the soldiers shoes to wear. Some of the ancient ones were totally against that. Putting them in the uniform of the European design. Some of them were totally against that. But again, I am saying that we're speaking of the Lord that shall shave with a razor. And that razor was hired from the king of Assyria. Some ones consider why it is the carriage of the Kaiser, I think is the Wilhelm of Germany, that was used at the coronation of Haile Selassie I. This is all reality. This is history and reality. This is why even some of our brethren within the Rastafari faith have not used understanding with knowledge and have gone a bit off the cliff with the whole understanding of the true authenticity of the lineage of Haile Selassie plus the authenticity of the throne of Ethiopia, because I'm going to show you exactly who we're dealing with right now. Haile Selassie I from 1954 was a member of the Knights of the Garter, the same Knights of the Garter that I mentioned to you a moment ago. Now you see, when you ask once, Haile Selassie was a Mason, some ones are quick to say, no man, Selassie ain't in them things in. And I mean, to be very honest, you cannot duck out these things when you see so many photos of the emperor, even in his regalia of the Knights of the Garter. And then of course you have the ceremony in 1972, which I'm going to show to you now. The ceremony of the Knights of the Garter going into Windsor's castle, and Haile Selassie I left Ethiopia. To me, that was a mystic move to go to England to partake in that ceremony with Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip and Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, and the Queen's mother, that is Elizabeth, the Queen's mother, not Queen Elizabeth II now, Queen Elizabeth's mommy, the Queen's mother, the widow at that time. She's dead now herself, but at that time, the widow of the then at that time and still now the deceased king, the late King George. See what I'm saying? 1972, and that's interesting to perform this ceremony just 2 years before he himself, Haile Selassie I, came off the scene. So, although he was made a knight in 1954, he has never really attended the ceremony until 1972. That's what I'm showing to you. And you will see him, in the procession, as you see him moving through with the knights. Now, let me just say before we go into the fullness of this, we must keep in mind that Solomon is considered as the great grandmaster of all of this. Solomon, whether you believe or not, and let me say now to all Rastafari, I don't know where some of our heads may be at right now, but you better be careful. This is why I tell people that a lot of what is out there as do you believe and do you think, I have passed that stage. I did an episode on the mystic vibration. Did Solomon really exist? That is on the YouTube. Did Solomon exist? I would advise you to go and study that expression properly. That is not something that can be done now. That's a show by itself. So did Solomon exist? I am just saying to those who are Rastafari, be very careful. Don't throw away the baby with the bath water. Because Solomon again is considered, whether he's mythical or not, even if, and I'm going to say now, for conversation's sake, let us just say, because they cannot find any evidence to prove that this is Solomon, especially in Jerusalem and all of that, let us just say that Solomon does not exist. So you don't need to say, but Brother Solomon didn't exist. We're on the same page right now. There's no Solomon. You hear me? There is no Solomon. Solomon don't exist. And David don't exist. Good. Mythical character. Fair enough. I'm with you. Straight up. I ain't playing. I'm with you. Good. But whatever the case is, these Masons in the Freemasonic world, from the Knights of the Templars to the Knights of the Garter, they revere Solomon. They revere Hiram Abeher and Haile Selassie now, according to the tradition of the Ethiopians, is of the lineage of the same Solomon. Haile Selassie now has fulfilled the prophecy of the mythical book called the Bible in many different aspects when he spoke to the League of Nations. This is seen in the book of Zephaniah. This is seen when it says in the book of Zephaniah that he shall gather all nations and pour out his wrath unto them, and he shall speak to them in a pure language. This language was taken from beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. Now, I mean, come on. He spoke unto them in Amharic, a language from Ethiopia. He gathered all nations together. The first head of state to address this august body, the League of Nations, 1936, the 30th of June. Prophecies that align perfectly with history. The same Solomon temple, according to the book of Chronicles, this temple was supposed to be built again for the ark, and the temple was completed on the 23rd day of the 7th month. Now the 23rd day of the 7th month, as I said in the Master of Ceremonies, the whole calendar system would be different than the Gregorian calendar. Of course, I agree. But this is where secret science and modern day masonry enters the game. Because in this modern day time, the 23rd day of the 7th month is the 23rd day of July. Now Solomon's building was completed on the 23rd day of the 7th month. Now remember, Christ already told you that he's going to break down Solomon's building and build it back up in 3 days. He was not speaking of the building made of stone. He was speaking of his own flesh, of organs and cells and tissues and muscles. That's what he was talking about. He was speaking of himself. So Solomon now, the temple that Solomon built, is more than just the temple that Solomon built. It has to do with his lineage, his bloodline, the temple that he built. The temple that Solomon built is Haile Selassie I. The same temple that housed the Ark of the Covenant. That's why it was completed on the 23rd day of the 7th month. I mean, even in the Bible, in the allegoric book that is not historically sound according to many, you could see specific names that are used. This is Freemasonry too, if you want to call it that. This is secret science, straight up. When it speaks of in the book of John about Isaiah and Elias, and when you take the word Isaiah and you take the word Elias and you scramble them, you get the name Selassie I. And when you take the name Elijah, which is Elias, and you turn it around and take away the J because there's no J in Hebrew, you get the name Haile Selassie I. From these three names, Isaiah, which is Isaiah, very key, because Isaiah is the messianic prophet that mentions Emmanuel twice in the Old Testament, and it's Isaiah that mentions it. And the third time in the New Testament in Matthew 1, 23, 1, 2, 3, three times it's mentioned, Emmanuel, in the Bible. Isaiah, there's the book called The Ascension of Isaiah, which is to say, like Elijah, Isaiah ascended. So Isaiah, and Elias, which is Elijah, are both mentioned in the same scripture when asked if the Christ was the return of any one of these. And I'm showing when you put these two names, not any names now, we didn't just grab any old names, we used two names in their right context. They were used together to speak of the return of Christ. So when you scramble these two names together now, you get Selassie I. And when you take the name of Elias, which is really Elijah, and take out the J that many say, oh, Priest Isaac, there was no J. Fair enough, let's take it out. And twist it around, you get the name Haile Selassie. We're dealing with Freemasonry here, aren't we? And Masonic and Illuminati and secret messages and secret science. I think I've showed you from nature down to the written handworks of men and translations and I would even say distorted books. That's why I said at the beginning, from Ptah to Anansi, and Vishnu and Shiva and Brahma and Shango, down to Jason and his golden fleece, Atlas, Jesus, Prester John, Solomon. You could go on and on and on. In these mythos, in these allegorical stories, and of course the heavens declare the glory, we continually come back to Qedamawi, Haile Selassie. So I'm just saying now, in my book, the Masonic world knows this, understands this. All of these different titles that were given to the emperor wherever he went. All of the different medals and degrees that he received, the honorary degrees, and doctorate of this and doctorate of that. But let us home in on the granddaddy now, the Knights of the Garter. Because remember now that the Knights of the Garter was started by Edward III, the King Edward III. But it was Prince Edward, the Black Prince, that was basically the head of the garter. Because the Prince of Wales, whoever he may be, is always the head. He's called the knight's companion. And the monarch, he or she at the time, will be seen as the sovereign. But the point is, it is really the custody of the Prince of Wales. And I told you that I believe that's why the concept of Pinocchio, another Christ figure, was taken out of the whole science being swallowed by a fish and brought into the concept of being swallowed by a whale. And that is another story for another time. In fact, we have covered that already, but I just brought it in for those who follow what we do. It may add a bit more light to what was said in the past. So I'm saying here now that when we watch this ceremony in 1972, let's look at this good. We have Emperor Solomon here. I mean Haile Selassie, because greater than Solomon is here. So here is Solomon's great-great-grandchild here. We got Solomon in the house. And if you notice, this procession, you will notice, Haile Selassie is walking with the Queen's mother, Elizabeth. Not Elizabeth II, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen's mother. And they are basically at the head of the procession. After them, servants and people that are, their entourage again, their retinue. They're carrying whatever it's needed to make sure that everything goes good. You have cardinals, you have what appears to be bishops, whatever, moving along. Then you have, after that whole congregation there, you have Queen Elizabeth II now and Prince Philip. They're moving forward. And, the whole, you can see the audience, everybody is watching on. And then after them, they have their own, their own companions as well. Then you have the knights. Interesting. They go into Windsor Castle and they perform the 35-minute ceremony and they come back out. Now what I'm saying here, when you observe this very good, you will see that Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, obviously he's there because he's the Prince of Wales. This is his stuff, Whether you know it or not, this is his stuff. But interestingly, Prince Charles is not in the ceremonial line as such. He's not in the procession. How come he's not in the procession? When you observe other Knights of the Garter ceremony in the past and even up to now, Prince Charles is always in the procession. But let us take a look at a ceremony when he was in the procession with his grandmommy. The place where Prince Charles would occupy in this Knights of the Garter procession is the exact place that Haile Selassie is occupying at his visit. Interesting. Prince Charles is the Prince of Wales, and it is customary to understand that the Prince of Wales is basically the head of the Knight of the Garter. That is why some historians will tell you that the Knight of the Garter was started in 1348 by who? King Edward III. And some will say, well, no, it was started by Prince Edward, the Black Prince. Because Prince Edward, the Black Prince, and the Black Prince is not because of, he was black bad. He actually was considered to have black blood in him. And he was the elder son of the King Edward III. Wow. And he was the Prince of Wales, the knight companion. But obviously the king is the king. The king is the sovereign basically over everything. So that goes without saying. So there is the concept of the Prince of Wales really being the head honcho there of the Knights of the Garter. I'm just saying, interestingly, that when Haile Selassie visited this Night of the Garter celebration, the Prince of Wales gave the king, well, I don't know if gave him is the right term, but the Prince of Wales came out of his position, and Haile Selassie I came into the position that the Prince of Wales, the head of the Knights of the Garter, would have had. Remember, the Knights of the Garter is the next best thing you can get to the Knights of the Temples of Solomon, which supposedly disappeared a few years before the Knights of the Garter sprung up in England. Now, after coming out of the castle, to add more, you will notice now coming out of the castle, it's a very windy day. The individuals now, you see the knights on the side of the steps, they're lying on the side of the steps, and Haile Selassie and the Queen's mother comes out. Now you will notice that they don't have on their hats. Is it because it's very windy? Nah, this is not how this goes at all, my brothers and sisters. This is ceremony, and this is an order. Only the women have on their hats. You can see the Queen and the Queen's mother with their hats. And looking good. You will see that obviously the real knights, the soldiers, them in the armored knights, I should say, in them old-time Roman armored vibes, have on their headpiece. Now you will notice that as soon as Haile Selassie I puts on his headpiece, check it, it is only when Haile Selassie I put on his headpiece, you could see the guards in the back putting on their headpiece. Look at that. Nothing here is by mistake. This is not just happening by chance. The knights cannot put on their hats. Prince Charles doesn't put on his hat. In fact, it is when Prince Charles enters the buggy that you see Prince Charles put his hat on his head, and then they roll out. Now what is happening here? Greater than Solomon is here. You may not see that, but they understand what's going on. So this is why I'm saying that even from the time of the King Edward III, and that third is very mystic, King Edward and his son, the Black Prince, Prince Edwards, the Black Prince, Prince Edwards, the Prince of Wales, interesting language. And now the current Prince of Wales is Prince Charles. Prince Charles Edwards, Charles Edwards, the Black Queen. What is this? Don't play around with, don't touch me. Prince Edwards, Prince Charles Edwards, King Edwards the third. So Prince Charles now, who from the time of Prince Edwards, the tradition is still there, the Black Prince, that he is the head of the Knights of the Garter, stand above all organization. But at the coming of the Negus, the head of that august body, that order of chivalry, the head of that, the keepers of the secret of Solomon, the head of that has to come out of the way and make the king of Ethiopia take his place in the ceremony. So are you telling me now Haile Selassie is a grandmaster? Grandmaster? Haile Selassie is obviously a mason. A mason. You're going to ask the shepherd if he's a sheep? What's wrong with you? He ain't no grandmaster. Haile Selassie is the great architect. And I don't mean the builder of no building, you know, man. The great architect is considered to be the Almighty. That is why in some old arts you see him with the compass and the square designing the universe. And this is why all the ancient sciences can point right back to Haile Selassie the First. We've already revealed that in the Master of Ceremonies. I'm not questioning or asking or querying. We've already proven this in the documentary 7. Everything is aligned with Qedamawi Haile Selassie. And if you don't quote unquote believe, those in the know totally understand. So this is why even us as Rastafari gotta have our head on, man. You think the world don't know who we are? It is us that are playing around. You think they don't comprehend who the sons of Haile Selassie are? And I'm gonna home in now, Bobo Shanti. As I said of the craft, you with your left hand on your heart and spinning around to the left, you never consider what all these colors about you're wearing every day. Looks like some real Mason vibes to me. And all the bowing and my lord, is them I hear talking so. Greater than Solomon is here. And he is the grand architect. So although within the midst of all that I've said, it may still sound strange to you, but Haile Selassie ain't no Mason. I know some of my brothers think he is. And as I said, historically, I mean, for conversation's sake, I gotta accept that, hey, he's a member of the Knights of the Garter, isn't he? And not just that, he has accepted so many different degrees and titles and the Grand Cross of Victoria and the Cross of St. George and a lot of things, medals and regalia and medallions and scepters that are well aligned with Masonry and Freemasonry. So I mean, you may say, well, come on, brother, you gotta, throw in your towel, hands up. I understand. I'm not running from none of that. But I'm looking at this from a different realms. This ain't just no Mason. What are you talking about? And it's not even just Solomon, the Grand Master. Again, you are entertaining the great architect, the nucleus of existence. And thank you, Holy Man Olai, Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. Subscribe to the Mystic Vibration Shock of the Hour program today and receive our nightly show immediately after each and every broadcast. This will be done via the email and will be found in your inbox. For the small price of only 50 United States dollars, you will receive almost 20 hours of raw information, knowledge, research, and scholarship on various subject areas and topics that are necessary to be addressed at this time. In addition, all subscribers will receive our monthly video lecture series, which has a value of 20 United States dollars. They will receive the video lecture for free that is related to the month that they are subscribing for. To subscribe, call or WhatsApp 1268-728-3162 or email priestisaac27@gmail.com. The Mystic Vibration is a program that is every Monday to Thursday at 6 p.m. sharp Eastern Caribbean time on radioanu.com.